the Metropolitanate of Montenegro and the Littoral of the Serbian Orthodox Church. The Eparchy of Zeta was founded in 1219 by Savor of the Nemanjić dynasty, the first archbishop of the autocephalous Serbian Orthodox Church, after receiving the autocephaly from the Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople and confirmation from the Byzantine Emperor. Archbishop Savor organized the area under his ecclesiastical jurisdiction into 9 bishoprics. One of these was the Bishoprec of Zeta. Upon the proclamation of the Serbian Patriarchate of Pec in 1346, the Bishoprec of Zeta was among several eparchies elevated to the honorary rank of Metropolitanate by the decision of the State Church Council, held in Skopje, and presided by the Serbian Emperor Stefan Dušan, after the dissolution of the Serbian Empire. Finally, it was moved to Cetinje, in the region of Old Montenegro, where the Cetinje monastery was built in 1484 by Prince Ivan Kajović of Zeta. Starting from the end of the 15th century, mountainous regions of Zeta became known as Crna Gora, meaning the Black Mountain, hence the Montenegro. In 1493, Prince Ivan's son and successor, Prince Đurđ Kajović, opened a printing house in Cetinje, run by Hieromonk Makarije, and produced the first ever book to be printed among the South Slavs. It was the Cetinje Oktoichos, a Serb Slavonic translation from the original Greek of a service book that is still used to this day in the daily cycle of services in the Orthodox Church. In 1496, entire Zeta, including Montenegro, fell to the Turks, but the Metropolitanate survived. After 1496, the Eparchy of Cetinje, as well as other eparchies of the Serbian Orthodox Church, continued to exist under the new Ottoman rule. It had diocesan jurisdiction over Old Zeta, known now as Old Montenegro, keeping its seat in Cetinje. It had spiritual influence over the territory between Bijelopavlići and Podgorica to the Bojana River. The eparchy also included some parts of Herzegovina, from Grahovo to Sevo. From 1557 to 1766, eparchy was under constant jurisdiction of the Serbian Patriarchate of Pec. During the 16th and 17th centuries, the bishops and the local Christian leaders led armed resistance against the Ottomans on several occasions, with some degree of success. Though the Ottomans nominally ruled the Sanjak of Montenegro, the Montenegrin mountains were never completely conquered. The bishops and local leaders often allied themselves with the Republic of Venice. At the beginning of the 17th century, Montenegrins fought and won 2 important battles at Jeskopolje, under the leadership and command of Metropolitan Rafim Njegoš. This was the first time that the Metropolitan had led and defeated the Ottomans. Entire territory of the Metropolitanate was severely affected during the Mauryan War, and in 1692 the old Cetinje monastery was devastated. In 1697, new Metropolitan Danilo Petrović Njegoš was elected, as first among several hierarchs from the Petrović Njegoš family, who would hold the same office in succession up to 1851. Metropolitan Danilo was greatly respected, not only as a spiritual leader, but also as leader of the people. He combined in his hands both spiritual and secular power, thus establishing a form of hierocracy. He became the first prince bishop of the Old Montenegro, and continued to oppose the Ottoman Empire, while maintaining traditional ties with the Venetian Republic. He also established direct ties with the Russian Empire, seeking and receiving financial aid and political protection. His successors continued the same policy. Metropolitan Savor II Petrović Njegoš, and later by the Serbian Metropolitans of Karlovci in Habsburg monarchy, who initiated the unification process between the Old Montenegro and the region of Br. The same process was completed by his successor Peter II Petrović Njegoš, who received consecration from the Russian Holy Synod in 1833, establishing a practice that lasted until 1885. As a reformer of state administration, Peter II made preparations for separation of spiritual and secular power, and upon his death such separation was implemented. His successors became Prince Danilo Petrović Njegoš as a secular ruler, and Metropolitan Nicanor Ivanović as a spiritual leader. New Metropolitan of Montenegro. The eparchy was reorganized during the rule of Prince Danilo I, and Visarion Lubisar undertook some important reforms of church administration. In 1878, the Principality of Montenegro was recognized as an independent state, and it was also enlarged by annexing Old Herzegovina and some other regions. Until that time, Eastern Orthodox Christians of the Old Herzegovina belonged to the Metropolitanate of Herzegovina, centered in Mostar. Still under the Ottoman rule, such diocesan affiliation was no longer maintainable, and for the newly annexed regions a new bishopric was created, the Eparchy of Zahumlje and Raska, with seat in Nikšić. Since that time, there were two eparchies in Mo.